Okay, our final practice problem of today is 30% is what sorry, not 30%. 30 is what percent of 200? And I invite you to pause this and write this down. Get started. Okay, so as always, we have to identify our part, our whole, and our percent as a decimal. I always look for the of, which tells me my whole. Of, there it is right there, 200. So there's my whole. That's my total amount. Part has got to be 30 because I don't see a percentage up here. Is what percent? So there it is right there. We don't know what our percent is yet. And for this problem, we don't have to do any converting. We'll do that at the end, and I'll show you how that's going to work. But right now, we don't know our percent. Our whole is 200, and our part is 30. Let's write our equation. Part equals whole times percent as a decimal. And let's fill it in. Our part is 30. Our whole is 200. And our percent as a decimal is x. And just like with the last problem, we need to do some solving. We need to do some isolating. This x is being multiplied by 200, so we need to get that x all by itself. And that's what the equation method is all about, is solving for x by isolating it. Just kind of like what we did with the proportion problems, but in a different method. So I am going to divide by 200 on the right side, and I'm going to divide by 200 on the left side. My 200s drop out. My x is all by itself. That's what we wanted. And we just have 30 divided by 200 now. So this becomes a division problem that we need to work out. Let's do it over here. Remember, the numerator always goes inside the box. I'm going to add a little extra line here because I am going to add a decimal. And then I've got 200 on the outside. Now, this is a big divisor. But for a lot of these problems, it's going to work out. It looks a little scary right now, but if we just follow the steps, it's not as scary as it looks. Now, I know that 200 definitely doesn't go into 3, definitely doesn't go into 30. So when I have that case, that tells me that I need to add a decimal place, and I need to add some zeros. I'll just start with 3. We don't need to move the decimal at all because 200 is a whole number. If there was a decimal here, I would have to hop and pop, but there's no decimal, so I don't need to hop and pop. So I'm going to pop that decimal up right where it should be. And now we're ready to divide. Does 200 go into 3? No, we said no. Does it go into 30? No. Does it go into 300? So I'm looking at 300. Yes, it does. It goes in one time. 1 times 200 is 200. I'm subtracting, and I get 100 left over. Now, we always need to check and see after we subtract if that number is less than 200. It is. So now we're ready to bring down our 0. Now, again, this looks like a huge number. How do I guess how many times 200 goes into 1,000? Well, we can use the methods that we've used. Look, there's 2 zeros in the ones place and the tens place over here, so I'm going to cover those up because there's a 0 in the ones place and the tens place over here. And I'm left with just a 2 and a 10. How many times does 2 go into 10? 5 times. And that's what's going to be how many times 200 goes into 1,000, the same thing. 5 times 200 is 1,000. And if you don't believe me, I'll do some scratch work over here. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. There's my 1,000 right there. So after I did that multiplication, I'm subtracting. I got nothing left over, nothing more to bring down because those are just zeros. So here's my answer. 0.15 equals x. Now, here's the kicker. That is my percent as a decimal. So with these sort of problems, we don't want to leave that as a decimal. We want to leave it as a real percent because that's what it's asking for. So now I need to flip this, and instead of having my percent as a decimal, I need it as a percentage. So 0.15 equals, when I am converting a decimal into a fraction, I move the decimal place to the to the right 1 time, 2 times. So my final answer is 15%. Okay, so in these problems, I'm using my knowledge of converting decimals to percents and percents to decimals, and I'm doing some multiplying and dividing using decimals as well.